Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm your host, Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, retail tech investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you the insights from some of retail's leaders and legends, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Predict Spring is a global point-of-sale platform live in 22 countries. The platform includes mobile POS, endless aisle, fulfillment, inventory management, and clienteling, creating a true omni experience for customers and associates. Predict Spring powers Suit Supply, Converse, Lovesac, Decium, Janie and Jack, and Bouclair. Breakfast helps brands like HelloFresh, Perfume.com, and QVC increase revenue across Meta and TikTok by creating hundreds of user-generated content video ads. The Breakfast Creator Network, with over 5,000 strong, produces original content that is authentic to each platform and built to drive performance, all done in as little as 3 weeks. Check out breakfast.io. That's BRKFST.io. Welcome to this week's KPOV for week ending October 8th. Macy's announced it will open an additional 30 small format off-mall locations over the next 18 months. Macy's has already opened 12 of those stores, which have proven to be successful. And it's a great way that Macy's is getting closer to their customer with a better assortment and more effectively using their inventory. Kudos to Mark Mastronardi, who's leading that effort. Birkenstock is ready to launch its IPO, seeking a $9.2 billion valuation. The company generated over $1.3 billion in sales last year, growing by 29%. Hats off to my good friend David Kahn, who's leading the efforts for the Americas. Uniqlo owner Fast Retailing is looking for more partners in India to produce product. Why? Because you have to produce over 30% of your product in a country to roll out a brand. And that's just what they're doing. They now have 11 stores. They're profitable and looking to go after one of the most populous and fastest growing countries in the world. Finally, SoftBank-backed Faherty will also be looking to go public in 2024. SoftBank invested over $400 million at a valuation of close to $4 billion in 2021. And hopefully that IPO will prove that that investment was worth it and actually grew in value, which for SoftBank would be something that's been a bit of an anomaly as of late. And that's it for this week. And now to our previously recorded podcast. On today's episode of The Retail Pilot, I have the dynamic duo, twins, Alex and Mike Faherty. Alex is co-founder and CEO at Faherty. Prior to starting at Faherty, Alex spent over a decade in investment banking and private equity. Formerly a football player at Yale, Alex takes a coaching mentality in how he runs the business, knowing that so much of a brand's success is who makes up the team. When he has time and isn't coaching t-ball, he likes to surf. Mike Faherty wrote his college essay about starting Faherty Brand, going on to major in fashion design at Washington University in St. Louis before spending a decade in New York's fashion industry. His passion is sourcing high-quality fabrics from around the world and developing innovative new ones himself. Mike loves playing basketball and finding off-the-beaten-track surf spots and restaurants. Super excited to be here today with my friends Alex and Mike Faherty. This is a first. Twins on the podcast with KP. Guys, how are you?
Good. Doing great. It's an honor.
It's fun. So I think you were surfing this morning and you were stuck on the bridge?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound quite fair, but I guess you work that out later. You'll leave early, you'll stay, and you'll get stuck going home.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. All right. So I'd love to understand how you guys got into the business. I know a little bit of background, banking, creative, but talk about your journey. Mike, why don't you start with yours?
Sure. This is a long time coming. I was a kid who liked clothes, growing up. So there's not a lot of 8-year-old boys that like to go back to school shopping. And I used to get fired up to go back to school shopping. So it was something that innately I loved. My dad was a clothes horse. He had good style. And so I think that was something that I always kind of was interested in. So I remember being a little kid, 9, 10, 11 years old, like going through his ties, looking at the colorways, like intrigued by this thing, the feels and the feel of things and the color. So definitely knew I like clothes. My mom tells stories about me telling, like changing Alex's outfit all the time when we were little kids, like telling him what to wear. So kind of knew I liked clothing, didn't know what that meant and could manifest until, I think right before college, I guess junior in high school, you have to write a college essay, right? And so you start like, what is something that you want to do when you're older or whatever? And actually that was like the first thing that came to me. I was like, I don't know, I'd like love to have a clothing company, like where I could like make and design my own clothes. And that was like spur of the moment. And so I wrote this essay, 16, 17 years old, about this company. And it was this one. In the essay, I called it Coast to Curb. And that was the name of the brand. And then it was kind of like, I knew that was what I was going to do. And so college, I played ball hoops in college. So I wanted to go somewhere where I could play hoops and major in fashion design. So I found WashU in St. Louis but learned how to sew. Like I was one of 14 people in the class that started. And I was the only one that had never touched a sewing machine before. And so giddy up, but, learn how to sew, cut patterns, illustrate, do all the graphics on, the computer. So 4 years of that. And then got in the door at Ralph Lauren right out of college. Started in the kids department, spent a year and a half there, and then, went into the men's department. And that was about eight years and change, working on some of Ralph's, smaller creative boutique brands like Rugby and RRL. And then one day kind of was like, and we, the whole time we're talking about it, but one day I was like, giddy up, I'm quitting, let's do this.
So we shared a little bit of background. I was at Ralph at the same time, Rugby, working on Rugby. I launched Rugby, and then also RRL, try to bring those two together. Great place to learn, grow, develop. Alex, banking to fashion. And so Mike is responsible for dressing you as a kid. Did I hear that correctly? Yeah. That's hard.
Still today. I mean, this is obviously an outfit he designed. I still ask him, like, what should I wear? What should I wear? What should I wear? And Alex's responsibility was to keep me alive.
So you were in banking for 10 years?
I did investment banking out of college, and then I worked for a private equity firm for maybe 8 years. I did it total.
And then one night you just got together and said, we're doing this. And Faherty was the name that you were going with?
No, I mean, so as Mike said, once he wrote his college essay, we both said from that moment on, like, we're going to have a clothing company one day. And, we're fortunate enough to work with my wife now in the business. And so I met her freshman year in college. And when I met her, I told her I was going to have a clothing company with my brother. First time I had a job in finance.
That was your best line, right?
That's how she thought I was cool.
Yeah. Right. The banking thing wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled in the Spanish class with like a pair of board shorts and an incredible whole tank top. I don't think she saw the vision, And yeah, my first job at this investment bank, I told my boss I was going to have a clothing company one day. So I think we just like manifested it. We told our friends it was going to happen. So I think, we just kept talking about it and manifesting it and learning. And I think I kind of knew that the route I was taking was going to help us on the other side of things, where it was, understanding the financial piece of it, how to save money, which I kind of always was the one that did that in our little relationship as brothers. So yeah, it was a long time coming when we actually started it. Funny kid story.
Yeah.
Not like me dressing Alex. My mom one day when he was like 5.5 or 6 years old, maybe like a little older, found a briefcase where he was stashing cash. So he's always been like a good money guy. Ever since he was like 5 years old, he's stashing cash.
The money man. I love that.
That's me.
So early investors to help you launch the brand. How did you get started? Obviously you had the team right here, but where's the cash coming from?
So what we did was I spent a year. He still kept his job in private equity. I left Ralph Lauren. So I was like full-time working on the Faherty. So with that, I kind of like the first thing was I quit my job in March and I like hit the road and went overseas. And I spent like almost 2 months just traveling around, meeting with all my old suppliers, like going around, kind of just like letting everyone know I'm now doing something of my own, and kind of like feeling out who was interested, who I had a really good relationship with. And so I did that on the road. So I was able to start get proto developments and like all the ideation like going for about a year, so we had prototypes and stuff. And then obviously Alex, coming from that world was like, I don't know, let's find some investors. And we just kind of went the friends and family route. And it was sort of like, we built a studio in Union Square. I had 250 square foot. We had a big wall, kind of built the concept vision. And we had some prototypes and we just sat with people and Alex walked them through. Alex built like a sick business plan for us. And we were kind of like, here's what we got. And kind of sat with, I don't know, everyone we kind of knew that we knew had some cash And we were like, here's what we're doing.
So this is 10 years in the making. Congratulations. 10-year anniversary just celebrated, right?
Yep.
So Alex, take us to where we are today with the brand, just to give everybody a sense of size, scale, stores, and any volume number you may or may not want to share.
Yeah. So I think the one thing we've been pretty diligent about from that initial business plan that we wrote was having like a diversified channel mix. So from the day we started, we had a wholesale business, we had a retail business, and we had an online business. So I think it's like that was in our DNA from the first day we started, to our little first office showroom store on Thompson Street that a couple people visited over those first 3 years, to our mobile store that we traveled the country with, which was mobile retail in the early days, to, our first wholesale partnerships, and whether that was like, launching in Barney's, one of our first seasons, to having a huge Japanese business out of the gates. I mean, relatively not huge, but as a percentage of the business, it was great. Traveling to Japan in the early days. I think that really helped us like figure out what channel was going to work the best, manage some of the cyclicality of the channels, kind of get the brand out there and, kind of get the wheel moving. And so today we have 58 retail stores across the country. We're kind of now on, throughout the Midwest and South. So it's been awesome to see the brand kind of expanded. Retail, wholesale, which is about 25% of our business, is a great business. It was built on the specialty store model with great, mom, pa, local retailers, whether it was the Mitchell stores or Dumas and Charleston, to Pitkin and Aspen, just like to Fred Siegel when that was still kind of happening. And then recently really building our business with some department stores. Nordstrom's been a great partner for us. And then our online business, which is the flagship and the largest percentage of our business. So very like nice, diverse channel mix. Business north of 200 million now, which has been amazing. And it's been a journey. We got through COVID. I know that was tricky for everyone. I think we were, product was the right product. Some of the product was the right product. And we've just been able to really take advantage of the retail leasing environment the last couple of years to scale retail. So it's just been cool to see the brand, kind of take that next step. One, from just how the products evolve, but also just like, the brand's definitely more recognized, which feels good.
Mike, talk to us about the DNA of the brand, the guardrails that you set as the head of design. What's most important to you? Because the brand, to me, as a consumer, is very identifiable. What do you look at? What do you put into the brand? How do you see what Faherty is?
Yeah. It's interesting you ask that question, because that's definitely something that I'm trying to get more and more concrete, especially as the brand grows and more people are touching the brand. So I think the first thing I wrote down the other day was color. Like, there's something about the colors that I like, they're sort of like sunbaked. It's never like primary. It's never too dusty. It's just sort of like, I always think of like, how do I visualize a color that's kind of been like weathered and worn, but still has its spirit? It's like the reds we choose, the blues we choose, the grays we choose. Everything has like a level of worn in nature. Because I think color is definitely something that's identifiable from Faherty. You kind of see a colorway and you're like, that's Faherty. And I think that's honestly why I'm here, is like, I always was intrigued by color and combinations. I think that's to when I was a little kid looking at my dad's ties.
And
like
no black.
Paisleys. We do a dark charcoal. We call it wash black. And we have a couple different versions, some that are a little bit redder, some that are a little bit bluer, but never really, I don't go to a black, and that's cool. That's what we do. Obviously that.
What did Cuccinelli say when someone asked, how do we know any black? Cuccinelli said, well, black is not a color of nature or something.
Yeah.
And he's like,
So, you know what I mean? There's definitely something there, like so color, feel. So the feel of the clothing. And I think, what does that mean? I mean, I think it's like coming from me being like a fabric technician as a designer, where I'm like developing all the fabrics from scratch. I understand the recipes, that what it takes to kind of have something feel a certain way. So I understand, like, if I weave a fabric at a certain density, I can create a softness to it so it's not so rigid, right? I can add a filament yarn that has a level of softness that I can kind of create more softness. I think softness and feel, because I think it's like Faherty is comfort. You put it on and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, I feel it. Whether I can transport someone back to Nantucket or Malibu, how do we make clothing that sort of gives people a feeling and a place? So I think the color, the feel, and then I think last but not least is just the craft, understanding that, like, nothing is more important to me than the quality of the product. So that is just like, how do we create a product? And I think about like, how can we make products like, for example, most clothing brands, most times you buy a piece of clothing from a brand, the first time you wear it, it's the best time, right? You're like, oh yeah, it's the best time the first time. And then over time, it just starts like losing its, where I think like what I want to, with our product is like, it's better in 2 years. You know, you're like, oh my God, I fucking love that Faherty thing. Like 2 years later, it just like gets even better and better. So I think that's a lot of like building that craftsmanship into the product allows that sort of thing to happen for people.
Also an Americana aspect, and maybe this came from your time at Ralph or just your background where you're from, but if that seems to cut through. There's a classic sense to what you do with obviously a modern twist to it.
For sure. Yeah. You know, obviously growing up, big family, 7 kids. My dad had 7 kids. Grew up spending most of our time down at the Jersey Shore, big old beach house, 4 guys, 3 girls was the makeup. So girls and gals, mom and dad, friends and family always around. So definitely like peak 80s style, you know, from us. But so I definitely had always the feeling of Americana. And then obviously going to work at Ralph Lauren, like and Double RL, you learn like an appreciation for vintage, like the way things were made in the 20s and 30s and 40s, you know, when before clothing became like a commodity and it was like for life, you know, and I really have to study fabric and sort of workmanship from that era. And I think that's helped to like springboard me from just like a quality and craft perspective. And then obviously like I'm just not interested in trends. Like what I like to find is like, how do you take something that's timeless looking? Everyone's like, that just like, no matter what year, what season it works. And then really kind of rethink the way it feels, the way like the fabric wear. So there's like a modern innovation that's like hidden in everything. And I think that's like become kind of our special sauce.
Staying with the perspective of things get better with time, you recently launched Second Wave, which allows your customers to either return something and or buy something that's been gently used. Alex, tell us a little bit more about Second Wave, where you are in that journey, how it's performing.
Yeah, so it was a long time coming getting that launched. So we have Second Wave, which is our, you know, what's I think in the industry, a resale site. And we're in the early days of getting that up. And I think that's a bunch of reasons why. One is from a full circle sustainability perspective, like letting our customers put something on their site, make some money off of it, get someone else a chance to buy something gently used, gets a better price for it than they might on something full price. It allows us also with products that we have that are returned or gently used or come back to a store that are slightly damaged. We're now working with a partner that's helping us repair everything. So like everything that we make, how does it not end up in a landfill? How does it all kind of end back in the consumer's hand? Means we can make less stuff over time and kind of allow that product to live, I think the lifetime that Mike intends it for. So it's been a great launch. I think there's a lot more we can still do there as far as getting that out there to the world, that we have this site. And there's some great partners out there. We're working with a company called Archive on the web platform and a company called Tersis on the repair and the refinishing. So far, so good. And I'm excited to kind of see where that goes.
How do you handle this just in terms of, from an operation perspective, taking product back, where it goes in terms of slot locations in the warehouse, and then finding it when another customer eventually wants it?
Yeah. So, part of that is, I think, you call it the supply chain that's been getting built up over the last few years to support this. So the company that we work with, so our warehouse that handles, the goods that we get made, we work with a separate facility on this piece. So like the goods will kind of move from our facility to this facility at Tersis. So everything is kind of, easy to manage. And what we've had to do at the warehouse Columbus is actually pull a dedicated team together that just manages our returns, that we're constantly training on, what can go back into stock, what needs to go into, this sort of other bucket, and what is, what's damaged and needs to actually be refinished. So it's actually building out that infrastructure at the warehouse of having a team that's dedicated to that whole process. So you just get better over time, and you get these people who've now been with us for 6 months working on the product, who now understand what needs to go back into first stock, second stock, and needs to get repaired.
Staying with your focus on responsible sourcing, on circular economy, you've also been doing a lot of work with Native Americans and very focused on indigenous style. You want to talk about that, Mike? I think you guys just recently released a video, like as recent as this morning, because I got it on my SMS and checked it out. But what you're doing with Native Americans, how you're leveraging their style, and what you're doing to give back as well.
Yep. So, I think obviously, like when you think about from just a design perspective, I would say probably the most beautiful textiles you'll ever find, are Native American. The colorways are incredible. So color obviously sort of is something that always draws them. And Alex's wife, Carrie, who's helped us found the company, she really is focused on our impact. And she's just done an incredible job creating personal connections with Native designers. And that's really been the thing that I think we've seen, like within fashion, just kind of using the patterns and seeing them out there. And that was something that Carrie really was like, we're not going to do that. And I'm going to create these personal relationships, and it's going to be really meaningful for us. And we've been right alongside her, and she's built some amazing relationships, and it's really incredible. And so we just had a bunch of our partners here in New York last week, meeting with them and talking to them about new ideas and other things we can do together. How can we support them not only as a designers, but even from a manufacturing perspective? So, and I think this BBC doc is just like the beginning. It's like just showing the world, like, one, there's these incredible artists that we can work with and how to do it the right way, where they feel like they're being supported.
I think just hearing the story behind what they look at, what they look to for creativity, what's in the clothing, the family heritage, and how they bring it forward just seems to really align with what you're doing, what you've picked up on. And I thought it was great to hear how you're giving back, actually working with them versus just taking from them.
And I think that's one of the things I think from an educational standpoint that we've learned firsthand from our Native partners is like the damage and the pain that they have when they see, brands appropriating Native designs. So I think one of the things we're trying to do is help educate the industry on the harm that causes, and how can we set a blueprint for how brands can work directly with Native designers versus kind of just appropriating the things that they see.
Cool. Talk about community. You guys are really focused on building community, probably starts with family. How many family members are actually involved in the Faherty community at this point?
I mean, we've learned. So my mom she's been involved since the beginning. She was an interior decorator before we started the company. Then we made her the head of our warehouse. And then once we started opening up stores, we put mom on our store opening design. And so she's been just instrumental in us having the ability to build out a retail business. And we mentioned my wife, Carrie, and then Mike and I. So it's the four of us are like the main family members. But we, we've got a younger generation of nieces and nephews that are, late teenagers and early 20s. And we're going to put some of our next holiday catalog. So they were pumped. We were like sharing all the photos of them. So like the next, I don't know if they're ever work in the business, but I think the brand is definitely like, as Mike was saying, this is like big family we grew up in, a lot of great times together. And I think that community is kind of there. Like, and I think now that we've had the brand, I think a big thing for us is like, and I think we're the consumers, right? So like we're the people who are running the brand, building the brand. We're the consumer. So I think for us, whether it's one of the things we've really tried to lean into recently is over the last bunch of years is music. I think we love music. We love live music. So we did an amazing concert last spring at the Brooklyn Bowl. 1,000 people in New York and Williamsburg getting together. And that's just a chance for our community to like listen to great music, meet us, meet the team, a chance to kind of get together. So I think building that, we don't do this. We do this because we love it. We do it because we love our customers. We love our community. We're not doing this because it's a job. So I think we try and weave in the things we like and the things we love into the way we build our business plan.
How do you build community here at the office? We've gone through a challenging time, COVID. A lot of people aren't returning to work. What are you finding as a way to really help bring people together, keep them together, and actually keep them loving what they do?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, we're probably one of a bunch of people who our office is too small for the number of people that we have now. So it's been challenging to get everyone together and everyone feel like they have enough space to work in tandem. So we're working on a new office for next year. But, outside of that, I'd say so much of it is just like connecting on an individual level with each person that comes in the door here. How do we help support them in their journey at Faherty? And, I think one of the things we, is like core to our, the company and the core values is like this idea of like spreading good vibes. So I think it's this industry, as you know, can be tough place to work. It's intense. It's always work. I mean, it never stops. It's just like a hamster wheel. So how can you create an environment where people really love coming to work every day? And I think that's why we started the business, was because we wanted a place where we love coming to work every day. At least that was me. I'm not the fashion designer. And I think we try and wake up every day and like, how can we create that energy, that optimism? How do we add sense of humor? How do we add fun into kind of the day-to-day grind that is work? And I think that's, to me, is the way you keep people excited. It's just keep it optimistic, encouraging, positive. And fortunately, like, we've been able to manage a couple great years.
It's interesting. You can tell a lot about a brand when you visit a store. And as you know, I shop your stores pretty frequently because I love the product. But what I find so interesting is that when I walk into a store, how friendly the teams are, how ready they are to help, and also how much they love the product. So I don't know. I know that you're getting out to stores, Mike. How often are you guys in the stores and sharing this love and getting everybody so pumped to be part of not a brand, but more part of a club? Because that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, that's great. You feel that way. I know you always text me, so I know you're in the stores a lot, and you're always telling us the good, the bad.
I try not to tell. I don't tell them. I go in. I'm got the nose and glasses on, but they're friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts at what do you encourage people? I think there's a culture that we're trying to build at Faherty where someone walks into one of our stores and, we want them to feel like they've had one of the best shopping experiences of their life or the best experiences of their life. And so I think it starts with customer first, the way we want to be, thinking like as the founders, the way we want to be treated as a customer. And I think also like I was the first store manager at Faherty in our little Thompson Street store. And, I think we built that business brick by brick. And I think some of the, as we built that, some of the leaders that we have, like they've just been able to see the way we act with people, the way we treat our employees. And I think it just becomes like setting that example. And then I think the main thing is like that positivity and like there's an encouragement, positivity, like even when things aren't going so great, we realize like you make your month, you miss your month. Like I think with the feedback we've gotten is so many brands are so make or break every month. And there's such a pressure and a negativity that can come with that. And I think we're thinking about this the long game, like 1 month. It's like, this is something we want to do for the next, like when we talk to a store manager, like, we want you to build this business in the next 20 years. So like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think we think of things going wrong as opportunity versus like, oh my God, that went wrong. Like, how did that happen? We're like, well, there's opportunity for us to improve. And like next year, it's going to be that much better. So I think that's just like, because there isn't that sort of like, we're looking at how do I like have this job when I'm 70 years old? Like, that's my mentality. Like, how do I keep this thing rolling? So like, when I'm 70, I still want to pop up and jam every day. So I think that just changes the mentality. And with the people that we're so lucky to have in our stores, they're intelligent people because they understand, like, they're so good at dealing with people and they just understand, like, they can feel you, Ken, and know that you don't really want a lot of hands-on stuff. But like, if you need a size, like that's when you need me, like they can feel the way you operate. And I think that we've just been incredible. We have an incredible recruiting team. We just have incredible people that work at our company and they're very smart and they understand the customer fast. Like you'll never go to a Faherty store and someone's like all up in your grill if you don't want them in your grill. Or they're just like standing back and you're like, come on, can I get some help? They have really good feel.
So my son worked for you this summer in Southampton. Stephen Court helped him get the job there and he loved it. And he would just come home and say, I had this guy come in, he was there with a mom, but I told him what I loved and I was able to sell him 3 and 4 items. And he was just so excited about being able to sell what he loved. Like, because he was asking me, Dad, how do you sell? I said, look, you've got the product. Just show people what you love. Everybody likes to buy a bestseller. Everyone said, can I show you my favorite? Absolutely. So he was just so plussed working in the store and he loved the experience, just the vibe in the store. So hats off to you because it's tough building store culture.
It's in his DNA, Ken.
maybe it's in his DNA. Yeah, unfortunately, he spent his paycheck before he left the store every time, but that's a whole other thing. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Bluecore's software solution turns anonymous online shoppers into known customers and repeat customers. Bluecore enables retailers to personalize and optimize their email, SMS, and site marketing campaigns by delivering targeted and relevant messages based on where every customer is in their journey. Bluecore replaces annoying high-volume messaging with high-value messaging. Customers include Alo Yoga, Neiman Marcus, and Gap. Mike, I want to talk a little bit more about design.
Sure.
Tell us about your team.
Oh, my team. And I was thinking about when you asked Alex the question about like, how do you post COVID sort of, how do you keep everyone connected? I've been very fortunate, like with product, like you got to be in it and you got to be feeling it. And so, we kind of got back pretty fast. I was still coming to the office. Like I live over the bridge. I was walking over the bridge, coming here, getting packages, So it starts with like, I think the team is what makes it all happen because of, and coming from sports, I think that's been helpful as like building a sort of team of players because, it's like, how do you have the right, like, if you're building the perfect team, like you need some people that are like more operational. You need some people that are more creative. You need some people that are, kind of more organizational in terms of how they think. So, it starts with, I have an amazing partner when it comes to like the production sourcing side of things, who just behind the scenes is building our supply chain, and we're in 17 countries we manufacture. We're kind of playing, obviously during COVID, you're playing the waves. So you're kind of moving production around, that's sort of settled down. And now, but what it did really allow us to do is it opened my eyes a little bit to the world and all the different places where product can be manufactured at a really high level. So now I'm like, I can look at sort of a product that we want to launch and I have like a very strong knowledge of like, who's going to make that the best. And so I think that's been a great just development for me, kind of playing this global supply chain and really understanding who our partners are for the right things. So you got my sourcing production world that sort of really sort of is like our backbone, and then from a design perspective, I have some people that have been with me for a long time and we work well together. They know how to like kind of work with me.
How big is your team?
I think of our product team. So to me, our product team, it's design, it's merchandising, it's production, it's sourcing. We all are imperative to the process. And so it's about a 50-person team, that kind of makes up that whole product organization for us. And, because I think my merchants to me are just as important as my designers and they're all connected. And I think that's the unique thing about our company is like, there's no like me versus you, it's not like production versus merch versus design. It's like, well, it's my team. And we all just kind of like, we're all figuring it out together. So that's been a unique, and I like the way that is. Like,
Do the merchants report to you as well? So that's probably important because I've seen in other organizations, at least ones I've experienced, where you do get design that reports up one way, merchants that report up another way, just like stores can report up one way, online reports up another way, and you start to get siloed.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of infighting, you get some competitiveness, and you don't always have the collaboration that's required to really move a brand forward. It sounds like you have a great handle on it.
Yeah, totally. And this is where Alex and I split. When it comes to the budgets and the numbers, he handles that. When it comes to the assortment and getting the product made, it's kind of where I operate. But yeah, and I think now it's like once you sort of like, obviously at where the scale we are now, like it opens us up to who wants to work at Faherty. Back in the day, it was like, I don't know, whoever like wanted to take a huge, gamble on like a small startup. And now we have a really great team. I just hired a new head of my women's design, with a lot of great experience. So that team's going to get settled and, he kind of continue to, that's our fastest growing, product is our women's collection. So yeah, I think that the idea that we're all connected, I think that's to me what I love about our team.
And denim is a new initiative.
Yep.
Want to talk about that?
Sure. We've been playing around with jeans for a long time, behind the scenes and working on sort of what does Faherty denim look like. We've kind of launched a couple products along the way. And then we just felt ready to make a big splash. Feel like the brand had made enough of an impact in pants with like the launch of our Comfort 12 first, then Stretch Terry. And because pants is a very loyal business, it's hard to crack into. So I think we wanted to wait until we felt like we really had a dedicated bottoms customer who was like, of course I'm going to buy Faherty denim. Like I've already got all your other pants. And same thing there, have a great design partner who came from working in denim for a long time. She's incredible. So I work hand in hand with her. And for me, obviously that started with the fabric. It was like, how do I create this like authentic looking 1940s, 50s kind of look of the cloth, but then you kind of wear it and you're like, whoa, like it's stretchy, it's soft, and sort of build that Faherty DNA. So it took us about 2 years just to get the fabric right, especially using organic cotton within that sort of structure. We burned like, 3 or 4 rounds just trying to get the organic cotton right on how it was sort of combed and smooth to like work into the sort of structure of how we were going to weave it. So
Is that sourced in the US?
no, it's in Asia. So we're working in a full vertical operation. And that became really important to me, which was like, I don't want my goods going from here to there to here to there. So it was like one-stop shop, fabric, garments, washing all together, really allowed us to sort of curate exactly what we wanted across the thing. And then obviously just from an impact perspective, that helps keep all of your sort of impact down when everything's living in one place.
And you mentioned women's. What, if you can share roughly what percent of the business today is women's, and where do you see that growing to over maybe the next 36 months?
Yeah, so it's around 35% of the total business today
Is women's.
Which
When you look at a lot of brands out there that are more mature in terms of men's and women's, it's probably at least a flip where 65 to 70% is typically women's and 25 to 30% is men's.
Yeah, or the Ralph flip side, or it's like the Ralph flip side. So I think for us, it's, we have a goal to be 50-50 in the next 3 years, which I think we're well on our way. And a lot of that is, women's was a small venture for us until a couple of years ago. And we hired this woman, Kelly Roebuck, who's our chief merchandising officer, to really come in and take on the women's business with us and, build the team. And it's been great to kind of see that product continue to evolve and kind of putting our Faherty touch on how we build our women's business. And I think we're just getting started. We're only in the, in the second inning of what that business can be. And I'm excited to continue to see where that goes every season, every year. And I think that's the one thing I love about this business as someone who's not a clothes horse like Mike, I'm learning to be, have to be, is just how every season things evolve, things change. You can rethink how you want to do this versus that. So as someone who like loves change, I love things moving in a new direction. Like I've kind of fallen in love with that aspect of the business.
Landscape is pretty tough out there, certainly at retail right now. Who does Faherty compete against? I can think of a few people, but if you think about those who are around you, you're in department stores, who might be featured next to you. How do you see the competitive landscape and where you actually sit today, and who else is competing for the same dollar that you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that has helped us is the way we've built this business and this product assortment and where it's evolving. Is like, we're not sort of pigeonholed in one specific area or one specific competitor. So, for example, like, we compete with a brand like Patagonia because we have a whole assortment that sort of has that outdoorsy vibe that whole way. And then in some way we compete with more contemporary brands like Rag & Bone and something like that to maybe your more urban customer or your coastal customer. To, we compete with, on the women's side, a brand like, in some ways, a brand like Free People in some specific distribution areas, to some of the maybe higher end contemporary brands, and we've great business with the Mitchell stores in Connecticut. And they're like, you compete with, Cucinelli and Zegna and those brands and Peter Millar. So I think that's one of the beauties is we're building this product assortment and the brand in a way where like, it's just the things we need and we love and our team needs and love, and not necessarily like, this is our competitor and this is who we're going after. So market share is something we definitely pay attention to and sort of watch. But in the end of the day, like we compete with Lulu and Viore in some of our programs too. So I think it's just, if we can make the best product in the market in that specific segment, that's what we're trying to do.
What's trending now? What's driving business? Can you point to a couple categories or items that are just wish you had more of?
Yeah, the business, it's like, you always wish you had more of a few things.
If you had more of a bestseller, it'd be a markdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ken, big opportunities for us. I think women's, we just have unlimited opportunity. I think just unlimited. So it's like, put that in its own world. The men's business is a little bit more mature and you're obviously a customer. So, we have a huge opportunity in lightweight sweaters, just as a category, like monster. And so sweaters, that to me is a huge opportunity. We continue to have a huge opportunity in outerwear for us. So I think that to me, those two categories would be the ones where I'm like, they're just getting started. And
he's designing fall holiday right now. So that's what he's thinking about. I think within where we're going into next spring and summer is definitely shorts, like active shorts, tailored shorts, like really owning and winning in that shorts business, which has always been a big product for us. We have a hero product called the All Day Short.
I love that short. My favorite.
That we're going to continue to evolve and continue to move into. So I think it's that short business is huge for us. And then I think continue to like build out, when we think of like that short sleeve business, I think one of the things we can do really well when we do is just like that fabric where like, it's got your shirts, whether it's a woven shirt or knit shirt, like it's got that guys specifically or need that little bit of tech, a little bit of movement that they're used to, but how do you kind of make the fabric look and feel more heritage so it doesn't look too shiny? And I think like I see too many guys kind of really leaning into that active wear as they kind of move into lifestyle. And I'm like, I think that's the Faherty touch, is like the way Mike can take those more modern fabrics and put the patinas in them and give them that worn look where it feels chill and not like you're getting out of the gym.
Mike, you like to lean into collaborations. You've done a number. Who are some of the collaborations that you're looking forward to?
We got one launching coming up with CB Sports, which, do you remember CB Sports?
Great heritage brand.
Yeah, so it's like ski brand from the 70s. Yeah. They used to do all USA ski team. We used to wear the one pieces when we were little kids.
One piece?
So, yeah, the full zippers.
Oh, I do.
So we got family photos of us wearing old CB, and we got connected to them. And so we have a really cool little collection coming out with them, which will be super fun. It's like bold and bright and vibey. So that's coming out pretty soon. It's like a corduroy puffer jacket with like the rib trim. We've got a vest that has like a big like sun rays on the back, that we do with them. So that's super cool. The other one that's coming up pretty soon is Saucony, which is happening next year, which is awesome. A friend of mine now runs the team there at Saucony, and I've always been a big Saucony guy. The Jazz is like my favorite. Like
one of the best running sneakers ever. I mean, really was early.
Yeah, totally.
Early.
They were like the original pioneers. Yeah. And, it's funny because they have the Jazz and the Shadow, like their kind of lifestyle sneakers, are all over Europe. Great European business. It just hasn't really pumped here. And so I'm really pumped to kind of like, we went up there to Massachusetts where their offices is and built a couple of shoes with them. So those two are definitely something I'm psyched about.
Staying on the theme of, growth. Let's talk a little bit more about growth. You mentioned women's, you got denim. What about international home? Your mom being an interior designer, there's a lot of home product. You have blankets. Where does growth come from over the next 36 months, aside from the organic growth of men's and women's moving quickly, denim being a category? US is big, but where are you going?
Yeah, so I'll start with on the product side. I think we're continuing to evolve into some new categories. I think that's been a fun challenge for us. So we're launching a bag business this holiday in a small way, but I think that can be a really cool business for us. Home, we've really stuck to the blanket throws, but I think over the next 36 months, you'll see us evolving that category even more. I think that there's a tactile feel to our product that I think our customers are really looking for something more for home.
Definitely see a beach
chair. So
like
we have beach chair. We launched some towels. It's going to become a bigger business for us. We've just launched some footwear that we're going to continue to move into in a way. So I think we're stepping, slowly into each of these new categories as that should become a nice bigger bit of our business. When it comes to international, it's obviously on our radar. We've wholesaled internationally to some specific places over the years, but we haven't really said now is the time to really build the international business. We're getting closer. So we've launched in Australia recently. So you can, if you're in Australia, we have we're working with a partner there. We're warehousing products, our e-commerce businesses.
In Australia, just everybody probably knows, but you have reverse seasonality. Yeah. So are they getting the first look at what's new or the last look at what's
It's a combo. It's a combo of the two. But English speaking, we've always had a good business with Australian tourists in the States. The brand kind of resonates nicely. So we wanted to start somewhere that felt like we had to go with a partner, and really because it's so far away, it's a totally different seasonality. And we're going to iterate on that, test that. And then, Europe will probably be the next stop after that.
Marketing. It's been a challenge to reach customers. It's gotten more expensive. How are you finding best to reach your customers? What's working for Faherty in terms of bringing in new customers and also going back to keep the customers coming?
I think our retail store growth, I love as a way to capture customers, especially as when you go online, like anyone can make anything look like anything. You can make it look great. It's crap, so I think there's like a retail. So there's a thing about that. I think why we've continued to be like excited about retail and wholesale, Ken, is like, you can't fake the funk. Like someone's going to go into the store and no one buys anything they don't like. You know what I mean? Like you have to like really love something, and our price points are expensive. So the people who are buying our stuff are making a big commitment. And so, from my point of view, I love our retail store expansion. We're finding great real estate. We're investing in our stores. We're building beautiful stores. And so someone can come in and really meet our brand that way with a great store associate. Like, I've been waiting to find a brand like this where it's like the clothes I want, people around me are great. So I think, Alex, he works with the team and he's finding some great real estate and, realizing that like, we don't have to follow a retail model when it comes to opening stores. I think that's been a big thing. Like everyone else has like a retail team and there's like a cookie cutter approach. Like we're not a mall brand. So we're looking for interesting main streets in small towns because like we may find a sniff of a customer there that we really like in a great location and they're underserved from a retail perspective. And we're like, that's a great neighborhood for us. So love that retail. And again, I think we're still pumped on wholesale as an opportunity to find new customers. And then, when you talk about coming to our website and buying online, what does it look like? I'll probably like play it out a little bit. I think the way marketing is going to continue to evolve is it's going to be more organic. And the way advertising and marketing is going to be done is like just creating great organic content that people want to watch. And then that also leads them to sort of like sharing that content and using organic as a really way to kind of the switch of organic to paid. Like everything's been so like paid specific, staged and romanticized. Like I think that is going to leave and everything's going to feel more organic. And that's how your customer's going to really find you.
Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Retech is the leading innovation hub for everything retail technology. Based in the heart of Startup Nation, we have access to a growing network of over 500 tech companies building cutting-edge solutions for the future of retail. Join me and the team at the annual event Retech Disrupt, April 15th to the 17th in Tel Aviv, Israel. See you there and see retail innovation in action. You've done a fair amount with catalogs. I think catalogs have been...
Yeah, it was our first acquisition channel in 2015. So we were early on the catalog train.
And continues to be important going forward?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've over time kind of evolved the mix between acquisition and retention. I think now we really find that as a way to connect with our current customer and really get them to know more about the brand, get them excited about some of the stories and the things we're doing versus a huge acquisition channel because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of money to get a catalog in the mail and to someone who's never heard of your brand. So we've sort of evolved that a little bit, but it's still one of our favorite marketing channels. And I think we want to continue to evolve, especially now that the mailboxes have gotten so full.
Filling up
over the last couple of years, like there's just a lot. So it's almost like every brand's got a catalog. So I think we're now evolving kind of like, what does the Faherty catalog look like? How does it stand out? How does it feel more like a magazine? How does it feel more like, a coffee table book? How does it feel less like what everyone else is doing? And some people who get the catalog probably seen that magazine aspect come in a little bit more over the last few years.
With social media being what it is today, is there a channel within social media that you find works particularly well for Faherty?
We're about to embark on a little bit of a change in how we think about social media. We've sort of just been an Instagram brand and you saw that from your numbers that you kind of popped over to us when you just mess around with it. So heavily focused on Instagram. Obviously during COVID, it was the easiest channel to sort of understand. And I think with a small team, Instagram was like the easiest way to figure it out. But the world's changing. And so I think we're really going to change our approach and we're going to come at social media from an individual platform perspective and work and really create content and mix up content for the different platforms because one piece of content doesn't work in TikTok that works in Instagram. So it's really sort of like building that approach around platforms. Like what works in LinkedIn doesn't necessarily work in Pinterest. So like really going at social media from a platform perspective and continue to create great content, but then having a team around us to really mash up the content in a great way to kind of hit each platform correctly.
I still would love to see you. And at some point we're going to get there. I would love to see you incorporate shoppable video in your e-commerce site because I know that the two of you in a store shopping for your favorite looks would probably bring down your site. But I think you do a ton of business. That's my infomercial on shoppable video, waiting for it to come here. Obviously big in Asia. It's almost $1 trillion business there, but it's still in a pretty nascent phase.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
All right, we're going to get that going.
Okay.
Let's just flip before we go to the end to technology, near and dear to my heart. Lord knows it's probably how I met Alex and you, Mike. I probably came in here talking about some tech platform. I got rebuffed, but that's okay. I just came back from war. So tell us about your stack. You're very involved, Alex, I know, in what goes into the stack. You've done a lot of work. You've got a kind of a tech headset. What's in your stack? What's working?
So we have, channel specific on the e-commerce side. We've been Shopify since 2014. So we were, I think, first 5,000 customers of Shopify. That continues to power e-commerce, and we love what they've built. We use New Store for our POS, store POS, and they also manage our order management system. We use New Order for our wholesale POS. So those three power our sales channels. The OMS from New Store sort of connects to the ERP, which we're using NetSuite. So NetSuite's the ERP
that's common for companies your size.
Yeah,
a lot of companies out there in NetSuite.
And then we built some in-house tech as far as like from a production, product development, assortment perspective. We use a company called B Product for design and tech packs. And then we use our reporting that we use for product reporting is 42 Technologies, we've been with them for a long time.
Peter,
they're great. We use Maker Sites for all of our product testing.
Love those guys.
They've been cool. Great platform.
So Maker Sites, they basically get customer feedback on what they love, and you take that into consideration.
Yeah, so before we do any of our buys
Sure.
and our assortments, we're always going out to and our customers love being a part of the process.
I'm out there. I'm answering surveys.
And they created a great little mousetrap to help do that. And then there's some other smaller systems that we use throughout that, but I would say that's the core.
What's on the roadmap? 2024, are there any particular needs within technology that you're looking for or will be RFPing, so to speak?
I think the tech stack we have is pretty nimble. So I think we're always looking. We're always looking for kind of what's new, what's going to be a better way of doing things. Obviously AI is such a big buzzword. And, so I think where we're going to get the most success recently is on the customer experience side and managing the kind of the inbound and the outbound and just really getting customers information fast, making it super efficient. That's been a huge win. We just launched with a company called Gladly, which I think everyone is really, really excited about. I think step 2, obviously moving into the marketing world and how we're able to think through how AI hits our marketing and our assets is something that we're paying attention to. And then I think just overall data becomes kind of where we are as a brand and our size and scale that's like the next frontier for us is really building out our data warehouse. And, we've been renting a lot of systems to do individual tasks, whether that's our CRM or this, and kind of like, I think it's time for us to really own how we look at our data and when we look at our data in a more specialized way. So I'd say that's like the data warehousing, the how we show data, how we use data to inform decisions. We work with a company called Syrup on our store allocation. And I think there's a lot still there as far as how the machine can help us get the product in the right place better, plan our inventory better. So there's a lot going on right now. So it's definitely like you don't go a day without thinking about what's new, what's next.
Yeah, that's right. And in my world, it's kind of twofold, right? You've got AI support from, obviously like the ChatGPT perspective, language, can fire out great language around things, help with product naming, marketing campaigns, et cetera. You got that. And obviously the product creation side, a lot of improvements in rendering technology, right? So like take a photo, throw a garment, like throw a pattern, throw a color in it immediately. Like so that the garment rendering system that's kind of save time on sort of prototyping, et cetera. Obviously with something pattern development, huge updates there where you can like mash up if you're like looking for a palm tree with a polar bear and a something, you can kind of mash it all together and see some ideas with it. So from a creative design perspective, I think AI is like where it's at.
So will this reduce your sample expenses? Do you see AI?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think it'll just help you. Yeah, it'll help you. So like by the time what you end up cutting in samples is like so refined. I think that's like the big game is like, how do you refine what you actually sample and make? So it's like, you're looking at things so many different ways before you have to make that big decision. The thing that's changing though, in my mind is like, I want to create like a new shift in how designers and product development teams think about tech packs. I think what's happened over the last 10 years is like, everyone's gotten so consumed in a tech pack, building out these robust, long tech packs. And so all your design team is like living in a tech pack when like they're supposed to be creative. So we've gone from this like system of like, it's like everyone's a design manager versus like a design innovator. That's like screwed a lot of young kids in terms of how they think about design and just like face down in a tech pack. So I'm working on like a big shift in how we operate from that perspective and like kind of trying to get rid of tech packs and going back to like where it's way more like effective sort of product information that you collaborate with the factories on. And they're the ones who are really the ones who are like making sure that all the approvals are happening for your end versus you doing all the work. So it's like a big seismic shift. And I think other retailers who kind of run design teams and stuff will see it's become a big problem that we got to kind of change.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how AI can really accelerate that process and do a lot of the work for you.
Yeah.
Top 3 challenges facing Faherty today. And we're filming this. It is October 3rd. What are the top 3 challenges that you have for the brand?
I can take 2 and you take 1.
Sure.
So I'd say within the retail, the retail store expansion is getting allocation right and getting depths right and getting sizing right. Like, it's one thing to have an e-commerce platform where all your inventory sits in a warehouse versus like you got 58 stores, you got to slice and dice that inventory and you got to get it here on this date. That's definitely, I think, a growing pain that I'm sure, you've experienced in your career is a load of work. So I think there's still a lot of work, a lot of things we can do there for sure on that. I think the second thing is, really as the environment, however you want to say, is like, it's challenging, it's good, it's not good. Like, it's just a lot of uncertainty is, really building a brand that can withstand any economic environment, has that margin of safety. So I think building on our profitability roadmap and our cash flow roadmap such that we are able to make sure we don't have to make some of the mistakes that some other brands before us have had to make as they've navigated growth and change. And so, this is a tough business, as you know, and there's a lot of things you got to pay attention to every day. But I think really setting us up so that we can be around for the next 50 years is the challenge that I'm all about right now.
And then I would say the third one for us would be, obviously, as the brand is growing in size, how do we make it feel smaller to the consumer? And I think that's what happens to a lot of brands. They start scaling and all of a sudden they're like this like brand and you don't even recognize it anymore. And I think for us, it's like, we want to be the opposite of that. We want to be this brand that finds more people and more households and feels more unique than it ever has. Like, your touch points in retail stores are more interesting. The stores are more interesting. The people you meet are more interesting. The product marketing we do is more interesting, is more thoughtful. So like, almost like as the brand grows from a size perspective, the level of boutique feel grows more. So you sort of like never feel like this corporate retail brand, and you just kind of feel like your authentic self always.
To that end, I think one of the challenges that you will face, and something that I think that you're doing well today and don't want you to lose, is the smaller store versus the bigger store. The smaller store, to me as a customer, always feels a bit more interesting because as a brand, and you mentioned allocation, you have to have the right product in that store. So it's actually much more challenging to curate for that smaller store because you just don't have the space to say, yep, they get everything. The they get everything stores, they tend to be less interesting to me, but I really do like to go into that boutique where you have a smaller store. You have a couple of them in New York, and it's cool to go and say, okay, what do they have that the other one might not have? So that really does keep a smaller brand feeling to a brand as it grows. I also think for retail today, I think you're going to continue to see brands grow location number, but not necessarily the square footage of each store. And it becomes incumbent upon them to put the right assortment in the store, allow the customer to have that brand experience, and still then purchase whatever might not be there online. So it really creates that true omni experience. But I think small stores are just so much more exciting. It's almost like when you go by a store and you see a lot of people in there, you go in because it's like, wait, what am I missing? So I think that's critical to growth and keeping the brand really special. Are you guys ready for a rapid fire?
Let's roll.
We're there? Okay. Here we go. Alex, how many Fahertys have W9s?
4.
Mike, favorite stream show?
I still gotta say, I keep thinking about that show, Fauda.
Oh my God, it's my favorite.
Oh my God.
Season 5's coming out.
You can't go to bed for like 2 days after watching one of those.
I get pumped up on that. Have you watched Tehran?
I did, yeah.
Oh, man, so
yeah, it's
good.
good.
Alex, same question.
My favorite stream show is Peaky Blinders.
With subtitles or without?
I can go without.
Damn, you guys were all good. You know, my hearing goes. I get older. I need the subtitle. I loved it. It was so good. If you each had 1 hour to do something other than be with family, and I should say other than surf, because I know you're going to say that, what would you do?
I would ski.
I would play hoops.
Mike, is there a place, a designer, or brand that provides you the greatest source of inspiration?
You know, we were talking about earlier, but I go on this trip every year to Biarritz, France. It's been like 2 weeks there. That's the couple weeks for me where I really kind of dig into customer psyche and what people are wearing and the vibe there. I think the way kind of like the French kind of like Atlantic Beach kind of style is, it's like very easy and nonchalant. And it's like guys are wearing like cool clothes around the beach. Whereas like in America, it's become this like performance golf polo thing where like a guys are at a beach club and they're like wearing a performance golf polo with a logo on it, you know, with their beach club. And there it's like cool linen shirts. And it's like the clothes I really dig. To see the style I love the most around me all the time is really inspiring.
Alex, who would you most like to meet?
Barack Obama.
Mike, I'll ask you the same.
I would have loved to have met Anthony Bourdain. Just still watch his shows constantly. Inspiring the way he just thought about food and people and community was amazing.
Last question. What is your holiday go-to item? What will it be this year?
Jeans. Faherty organic cotton denim. I've got 2 of the washes. I'm going to get more. My wife and I were like loading up on jeans this holiday.
And Mike, what are you going to dress Alex in for holiday?
We've got this new jacket that I'm very psyched about. It's called the Seaport Down jacket, but it's using this eco down that's recycled down. So it's like super light. And I visualized this jacket one morning and that's how it happened. But what if you took the idea of a shirt jacket, a chore coat, and a sport coat and made it into like a really light, like true outerwear piece that was like water resistant. And that's this piece. So you can kind of wear it casually, you can wear it over a sport coat. And I think this is going to be like one of our next monsters.
Love it. Guys, thank you. So with that concludes today's flight of the Retail Pilot with Alex and Mike Faherty. A pleasure to be here with you guys. Thanks so much for your time. Loved it.
Ken, love you, bud. Thank you, dude.
Thanks, Ken.
This is your host, Ken Pilot, landing the plane for this episode of the Retail Pilot, Leaders and Legends. Hope you enjoyed the flight. If so, please follow us on your favorite podcast app.